Nancy, right? Nancy.
You don't-
I thought there was one.
Do you know Candace in my program? She's tuned into the live stream right now. She's funny. At the last event, see if I'm still off mute. Yep, I'm still off mute. She's on this live stream. I don't know if she's hearing this, but I'm just talking to Regina, who has 3 babies, 3 human babies and 20 brood mares, and just loves human and horse breeding. We started the last icebreaker at the last event. If you were a horse, what would you be? And Candace said, I would be a brood mare. And I feel like you guys should meet because you just both love human and horse breeding. Candace has 2 or 3 little kids. I don't know. Candace, are you listening to me talk about you? You're on here.
I am listening to you. I'm
Candace coming off mute right here.
sitting in the playroom with my 2 little kids.
Unfortunately, we're all muted, so we can't really hear what we're saying on Zoom. Plug in. But anyways, moral of the story, Candace, you need to meet Regina. You guys should hang out. It's like East Coast, West Coast brood mares.
Living right now in Sarasota.
All right. So Megan, why don't you dial in what we sort of identified as the first 5 leverage points that we've been, and obviously like they're not just things you check off a box, like they're things you're constantly doing better and better, but like 5 leverage points to consider in what we call our up level program, and then 5 leverage points that we're trying to implement in our quantum program. But I'm gonna have Megan run through the up level leverage points with as fast and efficient of a knowledge-based transfer as possible. 0 fluff.
Okay. Should be fun. I haven't seen these slides. Okay. So yeah, when probably the closest that we get to what we're going to kind of go over here right now is when you first onboard with us and we give you your roadmap, right? When we talk about what's your action plan, what is it that we want to be able to check off. So for most people, we start with creating a new agreement, because most people come into this program teaching, oh, I have a 30-minute private that's, $35. I teach an hour private that's $60. I teach a group that's, an hour group that's $45. I teach but if someone buys a package, then it's 8 lessons. There's too many offers. Things aren't streamlined. People have a hard time. We talk about standing your ground, enforcing the policies that you want to enforce so you can have a decent life outside of the barn and in the barn. So a lot of the time we'll start with having that new agreement so that it's clear what your clients are signing up for, so that it's clear what you're offering your clients, what the parameters are that each of you are going to be working within that agreement, policies, procedures, that sort of thing, just so everything's on the table and that everybody understands what's going on. And part of that agreement kind of goes hand in hand with step 2 here, which is setting up credit cards. Like we talked a little bit about it in the introductions. People saying that the subscriptions really helped streamline their business. And that's because a lot of that bookkeeping, a lot of that, painful tracking, who's used what lesson, how many lessons has somebody taken this month, that goes away, right? So, I'm happy to hand Stripe their 2.5% or whatever. It's usually well worth it because then you're not losing your time trying to figure all that out or hassling people who haven't paid their bill with you or who owe this or, still have this credit on their account. All that goes away. It just auto swipes. It's easier for the client. A lot of the time we think about what's going to work for me, but we forget that it's really better for the client too, because they don't have to think about oh, should I really be spending this money on horses? You know, maybe I should put it toward getting that new sofa instead or whatever. No, it just hits their credit card statement below all the other things they auto swipe, and everyone just gets to enjoy their time at the barn. So those two steps, in my opinion, you know, if you don't really want to level up, if you just kind of want to get to a better place, like, I think you can stop there. But that's not our goal. We want you to be super successful. We want you to be able to take your program, you know, to new heights and be able to, you know, do what you want to do with your hopefully newfound time and money. So then step 3 is often launching those paid ads. You know, we really like the Facebook messaging ad, that direct response marketing. They work really well. So getting,
Who here has gotten a client from paid Facebook messages?
Oh, God.
yeah.
I have
Awesome.
a question on that, though. I know we're trying to get through this, but with the way things are changing so quickly and most people are like leaving Facebook, like if you ask any kids nowadays, right, they're never on Facebook.
They're TikTokers. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and so that's one of my questions for this conference too, like what's the next front? What's
Yeah.
The next place.
Yeah.
My kids actually asked if they could make a TikTok for the barn. So I was like,
Exactly.
sure, go for it. So
Yeah.
kids run it
Right?
and I don't have to do anything and they make cool stuff and
Yeah.
other kids see it. They share it with their friends.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think you should sleep on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
But I think your client, you know, like if you consider your client the parent, like Facebook will probably serve you for your career. But I wouldn't sleep on TikTok. That's a real
Okay.
smart way to kind of go. You know, Facebook covers Instagram. They're owned by
Yeah.
the same company. So you just click a box and you're on Instagram too. So, you know, there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I think you can make, because like, I think Facebook is probably going to work for your lifetime is my guess.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't know. It's definitely still working today.
Right.
Tomorrow, you know, because our client is kind of like that parent, they're probably still on Facebook. You know, you guys are still on Facebook. So like for Megan and I's business, at the same time, I don't want to sleep on TikTok.
Right.
I don't want to sleep on YouTube. But I also don't want to, I also realize there's an opportunity cost. So if it's going to take me a long time to get up and running on TikTok and YouTube too, where I probably would have just gotten all the clients I really even needed just by doing what I'm doing on Facebook because I know how to use it so well.
Mhm.
So I like what Katie was saying, where it's like, let's make sure that Facebook can pretty much feed us everything we need. But if there's real easy ways to get into TikTok,
Mhm.
it's not going to hurt. You know, with that framework, I think it's probably even bigger mistake to waste time and money on TikTok and not fully leverage Facebook is almost a bigger mistake than sleeping on TikTok. So I guess the perfect is like you still have your steak dinner on Facebook and you find a way to implement TikTok that doesn't sink the whole ship where you're like, oh my God, now I'm just like overwhelmed with like too much social media
Let the little
to
kids do- or
to
the-
manage.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
keep, like the trends and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I tell them, like, you guys can put stuff in drafts, but I'm the only one that can like publish it. So like they have to make their videos and then I'm the only one that can like submit it. Cause I don't want anything
Yeah.
weird going out. Yeah.
Right.
A huge part of my program was like teaching you guys paid advertising because
Yeah.
honestly, you guys get just straight up like a client being like, hey, I want to be a client in your messenger. And you're like, great, let's get you signed up. Right. And we help you publish those ads. So the time energy versus a lot of business coaches out there are like, okay, you need to post 2 times a day on every single platform and come up with new content. And then you're like, okay, well then how do I get clients? Well, then they're going to like it. And then, you know, maybe they'll send you a message, maybe, but really you're just like, and so the time and energy to do all that really doesn't versus I'm kind of like a big part of the success is like, actually, let's just pay them. Like my Facebook business page, Megan threw up and it doesn't have a single post on it. Like for my riding school at my house, I just ran some paid ads. We got like 40 clients, right? I haven't posted one thing because like posting and coming content ends up becoming like a lot of hassle. So
Yeah.
is it good? Yeah. Like I wish I was having kids posting, and that's great. But what I found is like, I'm also just sort of aware of like, I want to just create like a direct, I just want a client.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like we're talking about today. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys really want to come to a conference, or do you want a profitable business? No, it's like, do you really want to post content and make that your full-time job, or you just want a client? So I'm like, well, here's how to just get a client, you know? So I'd keep that as your steak dinner running.
Okay.
And if you can venture into content creation and multiple channels, is it going to hurt? No, it's definitely good.
Okay.
It's definitely good, definitely better. But I hope you guys are like, this is awesome that we have a way where we actually get clients without even needing to do that. And then if we get clients, that's just bonus clients. Sorry, Meg, go ahead.
No, good, all good. So yeah, so getting those ads launched to get people coming in and contacting you. One thing that's not on here that maybe goes along with step 4 a little bit is making sure that your program is good enough to be able to retain people. Like a lot of the time we'll have no problem with client acquisition. Those Facebook ads will get people coming in, but we also have a lot of people leaving the program. So that's something we've been talking about lately with, getting those better client ascension models, getting better and better commitments from your clients in terms of how many days a week they're coming, how much money they're paying you, what they are kind of stepping into, and that goes hand in hand with having a curriculum that is interesting to the client, that they want to progress through, that they want to learn these skills, that they want to get better. So a lot of the time people, I would say probably most riding schools in this country don't have a curriculum in place. It's come to the barn, we'll do some trot pulls, or we'll jump a course, or we'll, whatever the case may be, but it's not systematic. There's not a clear progression of skills. So there's not necessarily something for the client, especially if you're not going to horse shows, right? To give them that marker that Brian was talking about earlier with, well, how am I doing? Am I a good rider? Am I a beginner rider? Am I an intermediate rider? Those are things people kind of want to know. But, if there's no clear way for them to know, or for parents to understand, I talk about this a lot when I first meet with clients. When someone new is coming on, it's like, sometimes I have a problem with the parents, wanting the kid to be jumping courses, and like the kid doesn't even know her canter leads yet. So, parents, maybe their only exposure to the horse world has been watching horse movies, which we all know are super accurate 100% of the time.
Yeah. The horses are always whinnying in real life.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
constantly.
So it's not really their fault that they don't know, but what we need is a way to communicate clearly what the expectations should be, right? So having a levels-based curriculum is a really great way to be able to do that, because a parent might not understand hunters versus jumpers versus dressage versus, reining, vaulting, whatever, but, and the levels within each of those disciplines. But they understand that when you come into a martial arts studio, first you're going to be a white belt, then you're going to be a yellow belt, and then there's a whole bunch of belts in between. And if you're good and you're committed and you work hard, you might get your black belt. That's kind of the mindset that we want to instill here, so that everybody's on the same page, and so that everybody understands what it is that we're trying to move to, and that the client is invested in getting there as well. And then the fifth piece on here is transitioning any existing clients that you have. Because that can be a little bit sticky, people don't like change. God knows I don't like change. So how do we do that in a successful way? So we always suggest, that you kind of grandfather everybody existing in for a while, until you're comfortable with all of these new pieces, with the new offer, with the new way of paying. It really helps to be confident that you have a steady stream of people coming in, so that if you do lose people, you're able to kind of wave goodbye if your program's not going to work for them and replace them with somebody who is going to be a better fit for you and for your business. And we have letters and templates that we've shared. Usually once you get to about, it really varies for everybody. I would say somewhere between like 3 and 5 new people coming in tends to be a magic number for people. Some people are like, I don't care, they can all leave, I just need to change now. And that's, some people do it that way and may or may not lose their client list. And some people have been on the new system for a year and just can't quite bring themselves to transition those few holdouts who are still on the old system. But in general, it's better to be simpler and have everyone on the same system and be confident that the offer that you have out there is good for you and is going to be good for the client. So I went through that kind of quickly. Anything else you want to add about up level, Brian?
I think the only thing I'd add to is that number 1 also kind of encompasses the services that you decide to offer. Like a lot of times we work with people that only want to work with horse owners. And so we're like, great. What we've sort of found, and this kind of is bridging the gap into the quantum section, is the allocation of clientele you have is really important. A lot of people are going after horse owners only, and that's a very, very, very shallow market. And so a lot of what we do is say, you know what, by adding a lesson on lesson horse service to your program, you can stabilize the profitability, because these clients compared to horse owners is a huge, really, really deep client pool. And so done right, it will also feed your horse ownership model. And so what we really found is like things start to feel healthy, but the horse owners too are important too. Like for a while we were kind of ignoring the horse owners, but now we're kind of looking at businesses that have 50% of their revenue is coming from lesson on lesson horses, and 50% of their monthly revenue is coming from horse owners. Like I see those businesses and I'm like, wow, that looks solid, man. I look at the revenue and then also it creates, like we talked about, like these directionless programs sometimes can kind of plateau. That same experience that Katie was talking about, like I kind of don't feel like I'm growing right now, and so like your clients have that feeling, like alarm bell should be going off for me and Megan, like, Katie's kind of plateaued here a little bit, looking for something else. She's done all this, right? She's done all these 10 milestones. Our new program needs to be like about finding God or something. Like once you build like a profitable, fully delegated model. Any questions, guys, about some of these? Most of you guys have kind of been plowing through the up level milestones and finding that they are and another thing too, kind of getting into the new content that we're having, is for you guys to be clear about milestones in your program and for us to create space. That's a little bit what number 4 is finding what are the leverage points in your program. And it's a living, breathing thing. Like this slide is going to change, throughout our career. If we find them in a different order or something more, and the way that we do them, it might be Bitcoin tomorrow, might not be credit cards, right? So we got to always update this. It's living, breathing. But I also want to start shouting out in my group when somebody does one of these things, right? Celebrating. It's not really cool that we haven't really celebrated people's milestones as much as we should have, right? To really reinforce what they are, because we know, like, if I were to make a guarantee, right? If you're like, well, I want to work with you, Brian, but I want a guarantee. Now, kind of going back into guarantees, there's something to be used in your toolbox. They're not just, we have a blanket guarantee on everything we sell at every time, no matter what. But if somebody's like, on the fence and they want a guarantee, well, then you go into it and you'd be like, okay, well, like my framework would be like, okay, well, what result is it that you want guaranteed? Okay, if you implement my milestones, because I'm so confident in them, right? Like that's gonna be my terms, like you implement my milestones in this order, the way I say it, right, in a timely fashion, then what? And if it doesn't happen, then what, right? Kind of going back into guarantees, you get all your money back, or like the more creative you get, the better, right? My guys, or I fly to your property and I literally sell everybody that comes in the door for you, take their credit card and sell them into your program until you hit your desired goal, or like, what is it, So I think you can be a lot smarter with your guarantees than if you're unhappy for any reason, I'll give you your money back for any reason, anytime. Like, yeah, I don't think that's, I mean, that's, that's impressive, but it almost sets your clients up for failure, because then they're kind of like, versus if I hold your feet to your fire, same thing with your clients that come to you, and like some point when you're trying to sell them, they're going to come to you and be like, this is how you get a bigger dollar from them. So like, look, it's 10,000 for the horse ownership program. Well, what if it doesn't work? It's like, well, you have to implement these milestones. So any questions about our roadmap? And
Are we gonna get more into the subscription? Like, so I have a subscription, but, I always feel like hairy selling it because everyone's like, what's the price per lesson? And I'm like, well, it's not really a price per lesson. We include this, we include that. Has anyone ever thought of like almost selling like a share in your lesson horses as the subscription? Like, so like, okay, you're gonna join our riding stable, but like you're gonna be a partial owner of like one of these horses, and this is what it costs you every month. Like almost like a lease, but it's just for the classes and the lesson.
That's what we do with, some of them will have,
Lesson lease.
one
Yeah.
horse could be leased to 3 different people.
Yeah,
It's not ownership. They're not coming and putting it on a trailer and taking it out
Yeah.
to the trails. They're not going out on our trails, but in their designated lesson, they're on Missy D.
They're committed to
Mhm,
one. They want to be.
yeah.
So they
And they
pay
get
a monthly fee.
to ride on
Right.
their own.
Yeah, so I have leases too, and we do that, but I feel like with new people where they're like, well, I just want to know like what it costs per lesson. And it's,
I
yeah,
can kind of answer that in a way, because when we switched over, I was doing per lesson
uh-huh.
and it was very à la carte. And I was so uncomfortable with the same thing, and I'd call Megan.
Yeah, it feels
This is
weird
so
and like
hard.
hairy to sell it.
And I
Yeah,
finally just said, fine, you want à la carte? It's $100 a lesson.
that's what
This
I
is
do.
offer. This is my
Mhm.
subscription. It's this much per month. With this, you're getting more than what you're paying for. You're getting your one lesson per week. You're getting your barn social unmounted lesson per month. Plus you're getting your 90-day goal meeting, that you schedule with me. And the curriculum and, that kind and status, like we talked about, like so that was really hard though. And you just have to find your stance.
Yeah,
And offer, okay, you want à la carte, great, it's $100 a lesson and you can't book online.
Right.
You have to go through me, good luck finding one, and that's.
Yeah.
But
no, that's how so my subscription is $325 and then my private lessons are $120.
there you go, yeah.
And people, I mean, some people pay it and I'm like, okay, cool, like
Yeah.
good on you, I
Yeah.
guess, but like it always just
so how many people are paying $325 a month right now?
I have like 45.
Okay, so you don't really have a sales problem with your current.
No, I don't, but it I guess when not that I have like a ton of a revolving door of clients, but like when I do want new clients, like I always feel weird talking about the subscription because they just want to know
Yeah,
like, okay, like that's cool, great, the class is included, but like what's the lesson cost? And then it like breaks up into like, then people get, and I have the terms for makeup lessons in my agreement, but then they almost get like greedy about their like makeup lessons, and like then you kind of like you don't want to not honor them because like you make exceptions when kids are sick and stuff like that. But I feel like if they felt like they had like a share, even though it's not a lease, if they had a share in like a stake in the program, almost like
Let
they
them
would.
pay the ferry bill.
Well, they would like,
Buy
they
that
would,
shoe.
yeah, I don't, it's just like a different way of selling it.
So a different way of selling it. I asked Hillary if she wants to come off mute, but I'm not sure she's on. But if you go to Hillary's barn, the first thing they're going to say is, we have a pony co-op. Okay.
Mm.
This is a co-op.
Mhm.
And so to buy into the pony co-op is $250 a month. And that gets you access to the ponies. Now, unless you're already a great rider, we don't allow people to ride unsupervised, right? Like, which is everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be dangerous for me. So the second component is your lessons, and it's clean for them because in Hillary's program there literally is a lady who owns all the ponies, doesn't want to teach any lessons, so they literally write her a check every month, and the terms are something like, to buy into the pony pool co-op, it's a 7-month minimum commitment, and it's $250 a month, and everybody's like, well, that's pretty reasonable. And then, the lessons, because, for Hillary to go out there and teach your kid, it's $250 a month to get one lesson a week, and unmounted horsemanship. So you get 8 sessions a month access for only $250, right? Because she's out there doing that. And so, and she's in a great area. She's close to Washington, D.C., but, she had a lot of success building what you're talking about, like in their minds, $250 a month for the horse owners, that's pretty reasonable. $250 a month for somebody that's, really good to provide the instruction, that's pretty reasonable. But, she ended up with 500, basically client paying $500 a month for one lesson a week, basically.
Mhm.
But psychologically, so when we saw that working so successfully, we did in the sample agreement put that kind of language in there to see if that same site, like exactly what I think Katie is trying to say is, we could get more revenue per client by charging a horse ownership or access to our pony pool. And it literally is a co-op. Hillary's business that I'm thinking of, that literally is a co-op, and I think that's partially for zoning requirements that, some areas, when you're talking to the planning department, you're not allowed to have a riding academy here. And then you're like, it's not a riding academy, it's a co-op,
Mm.
So partially for that, but like getting all those things to line up, it's basically incorporating in the client's minds early on, and this is something that I think we need to do, is that there is a maybe it's sort of like when you learn to play an instrument, they're like, great, well, the guitar is going to be $500, and then for me to teach you how to play it is only $50. So if we get in the mind of the client, separate the fees, it's called unbundling, splintering, right? So you guys are going to create a lot, you're going to be able to get a lot more money, and I'll kind of show you some examples of this by debundling stuff that you normally just throw together. Show it as 2 separate line items, 2 very separate line items. And in the minds of the clients, things become a lot more reasonable. So a lot of people are like, well, Brian, I do that anyways. And I'm like, well, whatever it be, like unmounted group horsemanship. Well, I do that anyways. I teach my clients to, I do that anyways. I create a private Facebook group for that anyways. I'm like, well, on our sales page, when we show our offer, let's list it as a separate item, private online community. Access to an online portal, membership site. All these things have a value to them. Let's debundle it all and list it all out. Because what the client's asking for is they want you to list it out for them. Like, and then I think basically it comes down to, you could, the core elements of your offer in a lesson horse program is the horse use fee, which, isn't really listed out. It's debundled, right? And then there's the mounted lessons, and then the unmounted lessons. And I think with those 3 things, you want the value of your subscription, like in Katie's case, $325 a month. You want you want to say, look, the unmounted lessons are each worth $50. You get 4 of those. So you get $200 a month of unmounted lessons. The riding lessons are worth $80 a piece. So you get $325 a month of riding lessons included. The horse use fee is $100 a month. And then you want your bonuses to basically equal, like, I mean, you don't want it to be so ridiculous because you might create a page where you show them, you know, like $2,000 worth of value for $325 a month. At a certain point, if you make it so extreme, I think it kind of, you know, feels silly where people don't believe it anymore. But but sometimes it's kind of valid. You're like, it's literally like $900 a month of value. It's $325 a month. The lessons alone justify it. So if you're like, look, I don't care about the online community, unlimited lesson auditing, the ability to go for a trail ride, the unmounted horsemanship where you learn everything, you know, or you could come at it like, look, if those things aren't valuable to you, then this is probably the wrong program for you, because that's important to us to build the kind of people that are going to care about how to care for a horse. Does that make sense? Any questions before we talk quickly about the quantum roadmap?
I think lunch is ready too. I don't know if we want to break and do that. or if
Okay.
we want to go through
And
the
then
quantum.
what time is Nikki getting here?
One.
At 1. Okay, cool. Everybody okay?
Is Nikki the one with the horse sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping we can get into that a little bit, like into the meat of creating the curriculum, so. that's good.
Coming up right after lunch.
Are we,
Ink from the printer for printing that.
4,000 pages.
I'm close.
I told Megan to print out the
Close.
curriculum. That's what we're gonna give her a hard time about. I said, hey, Megan,
Decided.
I said, Megan, print it out. And like, Megan's like, sure, it's gonna be like $6,000 at the printer. I'm like, no, just buy a printer, Megan, and print it out yourself. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. I was like, what?
That's the only thing I said no to. It's 3 inches thick right now.
And then I
It's
said,
even
call
that
Nikki
normal.
and tell her to print it out and I'll buy it and send it to me. And Nikki said no. I was like, this we could beat her up about, like, and part of it too, like, we're trying to like condense the milestones to be like, this is what you need to know. So like, that might be my critique for Nikki is like, right, is there any fluff in this 4,000 page thing here?
It's
Like,
all worth it. It's great. It is great. But you can do it online. I haven't figured out how to do it. It's saved on my phone. So if I'm in an arena, I'm not gonna go get my 3D printer.
I'm gonna tell her where she needs to take it. She needs to take it where we can white label it and like trainerize for personal trainers.
maybe I'm wrong.
I'm sure she's planning on it. She's taken off and we'll tell her to make it so we can white label it and easily just pull, because I don't want to make my clients go through 4,000 pages of stuff. Like, give me a starter kit of like the core of it and let me like rearrange it a little bit or something, and then hit publish, and then my clients will get a username and a password, and I can put personal notes in there for each client. Like, that's where she needs to head.
Our brand